First, let me thank all of you for coming here for this media roundup for the Marine Parade GRC campaign. And for those that have been following us around, they can recognize few familiar faces. Thank you very much for trudging along with us over the days. This afternoon, I want to divide the media roundup into two parts. First will be on the campaign in Marine Parade GRC, and second part will be my thinking on how voters should think wisely on a cooling day. So first on the GRC campaign, I would say that we have run a comprehensive campaign. We had a manifesto which we called 4G, Home for Marine Parade GRC. And we have rolled out a 5-year constituency plan for the whole GRC. And each ward has its own 5-year plan. And we have visited the markets and shops and households to get a feel of the ground. And I would say the people we met were warm, friendly and supportive. And of course I hope that most of this will be translated into votes for the team so that we can serve them for another 5 years. But we should not underestimate the strength of the opposition, which we have not. Whatever NSP may stand for, whatever their manifesto, the substance of their plan for constituency, we do not underestimate them. And very importantly, we did not take the support of the people for granted. So we worked very hard. I would say the other 4 members practically, worked day and night, tried to cover almost every household. In some cases, they were able to cover every household. In other cases, like Ubi, Kemangan, and Chai Chi, a much bigger place, he might not have been able to cover all the households, but I think he would have done easily over 80% or so. A few could be left out, unfortunately, due to a time factor. He will brief you later on what he has done. The team is actually led by Second Ping, and together with the other 3, they did the heavy lifting. I did my fair share of work. We campaigned as a GRC team, I think about 3 times or 4 times. I went to each of your key places, so 4 times as a group. Then I visited each ward 1 time. Once to Braddell Heights, once to Geylang Serai, and then to McPherson, and also to Ubi. But basically, each one of them is doing their own campaigning. They have to pull their own weight. They can't just depend on me, to help them pull their weight. So each of them actually worked very hard to pull his or her own weight. And very importantly, I want to give credit to the hundreds of supporters, the branch activists, the friends. They took leave and they spent time manning the HQ here in Marine Parade and their own respective HQ in their own wards. I'm amazed that so many of them came forward just to help the party, but they realized the importance of this campaign, so they put a lot of energy and effort into this campaign. I think it may be useful to give you some observation of the opponents. We take them seriously, but I would say that when I looked through the manifesto, I could not find anything substantive. And in fact, one idea I thought was quite bad for the country, and that's the idea on reducing the duration of national service, changing the structure of the armed forces, emphasize less on the army, build up air force and navy. It's not done by a professional team, without knowing the consequence of what they are saying. Then we try to look at their programs for the GRC. They had nothing until towards the end of the campaign, when they forced them. Then they came up with some announcement about student mentorship programs for schools, programs for the elderly. But we already have these programs. So what are they doing? Can they do better than us? Well, we didn't have a chance to engage them on this. I received feedback from residents that they have not been seen around very much. I don't blame them. They haven't got the resources, so they concentrated on visiting the markets and the shops. But house-to-house visits, I would say most residents have not seen them. We don't know what they are like. You see. Well, the main thing which I would put forward to the voters in the GRC is who can serve you better. Compare team for team. Compare leader of the team with the leader of the team. So team for team, I have a very strong team here. 2 old MPs, old in the sense that they have done one term, and 2 fresh faces. This is my team. The other side, you have, I think Ivan Yeo is the leader, isn't it?
Yes.
So Ivan Yeo and then a few others. So you compare leader for leader, Ivan Yeo and me. I think, I'm, shall we say, stronger than Ivan Yeo, in international reputation, in running a country, in running the GRC. But it's not actually comparison of individual by individual. That would be wrong. It's team by team. So compare team by team who can do work better for the GRC. Well, of course, I would say our team is better, but it's for the voters to decide which team can serve you better. So those are my remarks. I will hand over to Ken Ping, who is the leader of the other 4, the coordination of the campaign. Work very hard, before nomination, and after this again, how to gather us for the assembly and so on and so on.
Thank you, SM. Friends of the media, just to elaborate further on what SM has already said, I would just like to give everyone a quick update on, as far as I'm concerned, what I've done since nomination day started. In the 9 days that have come by very quickly, I have 108 blocks, HDB blocks in my estate, and another 1/3 of my residents stay in private estates. So of the 108 blocks, I must admit that I've not covered all. I've covered only 105. The 3 blocks I intend to do it after this media conference, so I would have finished all 108 blocks. I visited probably about half of my private estate. It's rather large. If some of us look a bit sunburned, it was a hot afternoon. Chuanjin and myself, we experienced it. So yes, of course, we also visit the wet markets, the neighborhood centers. I've done that a few times. In fact, one of the blocks I visited today, they said, "Hey, weren't you here last week?" I said, "Yeah, but that was just before nomination day, so I had it down as I didn't have it down as one that I visited." But what I just want to illustrate, and I think this is not uncommon for all 5 of us. SM himself have also visited blocks. All of us have visited our own HDB blocks. I just wonder. I wonder how many blocks the NSB team has visited. I know they appeared twice in my estate, but they went to a coffee shop, the market. I really wonder how many blocks they visited in my block. If I can just
interrupt. It's important for us to visit so that the residents can evaluate the candidates.
Yes.
It's not so much of going around shaking hands or hello and all that. It's for them to evaluate us, look at us, and judge us.
In fact, one resident actually asked me when I went yesterday. He asked me, actually, who is the other team that's coming here? But anyway, I certainly want to thank all the many residents that we've met who have given us very strong, good feedback and also good encouragement and their support. As I said, I think all of us, clearly, there are some areas we can improve on. I'll be the first to admit that there are some areas I need to improve on. But I believe that all of us have a very strong base to work on, to start from. And as a whole, we have a strong team. I would ask my residents that I think certainly look at our team's programs that we plan, our team's experience, my experience, our capabilities, and also our sincerity in serving them. And then, yes, decide whether our team against the other team, which team can secure a better future for them. And SM has also said, actually with our team, our residents know that they actually have a voice and a strong voice in cabinet, and also a strong voice in parliament. You know that in the last 5 years, I have actually raised, Fatima also have raised many issues, some of which were highlighted by the media. One that I am particularly proud of was when I moved the private members' bill on maintenance of parents. But all things said and done, we have a strong team here, a strong voice, residents will know that they have a strong voice in cabinet as well as a strong voice in parliament to project the concerns of residents to the in parliament and also within cabinet to make sure that these are taken into account in the formulation of policies, in the review of policies going forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
And maybe Chuanjin, before I pass on to the two ladies.
Well, I think since nomination day, in fact, before nomination day, I think the priority really was to walk the ground. Obviously, the area I'm covering is very large. But I think the key thing really is to understand not just the physical area itself, but I think to also meet the people. And in the course of the conversations, they also would raise their issues, concerns, and so on. And what I find is obviously there's a very wide-ranging, different needs depending on which sector you visit. And I think that level of understanding is important, especially in terms of the work that we would have to continue to build on from the predecessors. And I think it's walking the ground that really gives you an understanding of the geography of the area and also in terms of the population concerns. And that actually would then translate into how you implement policies in an effective way. So rather than just the motherhood statements, you then contextualize it. And I think that for me has been very valuable, especially as someone new in the area. I think the last couple of weeks has been quite significant. And again, I think to thank really all the supporters who have been working very hard to help us along the process. So I think the hard work has been put in, but I think there's still a lot of hard work that still is required to go on. And like I said, the key thing is really about understanding the people, understanding the ground, and making things work. And a lot of things have been happening, and I think we'll continue to build on that.
Okay, Fatima?
I'm in charge of Geylang Serai Constituency, and I've got 65% of my area as private estate, landed property as well as condominiums. I've been to all of them, including the 60 blocks of flats that I have in Geylang Serai. So visited all of them in the last few days since nomination day. And this is not the first time we're visiting all of them. This is in fact my 5th round of house visits. So we're familiar with the residents and the issues on the ground, and I'm a very hands-on and on-the-ground kind of person. So that helps a lot because this is actually a good time when you actually get an overall view and a consolidated kind of a report card of what's been happening. And many are familiar with us. And, they say good wishes, offer you drinks and all that. And I think we've had a good campaign, I would say, in Geylang Serai. We fought well and, we're going all out to get every vote. And I hope the residents can see that this is all our effort put in the last 5 years. And as Ken Ping has mentioned, we've been quite active in Parliament. In fact, recently when they did a count of a ranking of MPs who asked the most questions in Parliament, I was actually quite surprised when I came in the top 5. I wasn't counting, but it all came about from feedback from residents. And this is what we do. We are the voice of our residents, and this is important because this will help change policies, fine-tune policies, and so on. And I'm looking forward to continue to work with my residents again, and together with the team Marine Parade, and we will continue to put in our effort. I think we have started quite a lot of programs, completed some in the last 5 years, being the incumbent MP, and there's a lot more to do. We've got plans coming on. We've got 5-year, 10-year plans, and we've got infrastructure plans as well as software and bonding and collaborative plans for our residents. So I'm looking forward to the next 5 years. I hope the residents will show us that.
Well, you have to speak a little louder, I'm afraid, because the recorders are over here.
Gotta sit closer then.
They're very sensitive. Can you pick your voice? Otherwise, you can change places.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think since the time I came to Macpherson, I've been walking the ground almost every day, and especially it got even more intensive during the campaign period, definitely. And having walked the ground, it reinforced my belief in the importance of understanding the ground, staying connected, meeting the residents in person and even in their residence, because that is where we see for ourselves, we hear for ourselves what are the issues and challenges that they face. I think it is there are 2 levels of issues and challenges and solutions that are possible. I think at the national level, we have policies that provide the broad framework to help or guide what can or cannot be done for our Singaporeans. But a lot of times it is how it is implemented on the ground, how it trickles down to the ground that impacts the lives of our residents. And I've seen it for myself in the past month and even the past years as I've been in grassroots. So I think for the local level, it's really the value of us as candidates and as a potential member of parliament is really to know these individuals and then help them evaluate on a case-by-case basis, whereby they fall through the cracks. This is where we can step in, push the boundaries, and help them get the help that they so much needed. And I think this is a great value where the member of parliament can come in to help. And also, of course, with that, it gives us the grounds to even be that voice in the parliament to push for changes to policies based on what we have observed, real, tangible cases. Now, aside from that, I think for us, in our team, at the GRC level, we have put in place a comprehensive plan, 4G, ranging from the hardware, the infrastructure, to the more software ones. And in particular in Macpherson, I hope to build upon the strong foundation that Mayor Matthias Yao has put in place over the past decades. And I think at the rally on Saturday night that I've shared that some of the plans that I have for Macpherson, covering the elderly, the low income, the children, as well as the youth in Macpherson. I think for the elderly, there's a good, almost 1/3 to half of our population being 50 years old and above. And this is an area that is increasingly aging, and therefore we need to invest more attention and resources to take care of them. At the same time, to ensure rejuvenation and sustainability of our community, our home, we also need to engage our young such that they also have a say and a stake in our community, in Macpherson itself. So this is the broad range of the plans that I have for Macpherson. I think at the end of the day, beyond the words, be it from from PAP or our or NSP, I hope that voters can evaluate us based on what our vision is, our credibility, and our ability to deliver. Because at the end of the day, for this GE, it really is about the lives of our people, our future. So I hope that we will be able to continue the good work and serve our people, our residents in Macpherson, in Marine Parade GRC.
Well, I should also give an account of what I've done in the campaign. I have actually been to the markets twice, and I'm going to the market and shops again afterwards. I've walked selectively some floors on some blocks in Marine Parade itself, because this place is familiar to me. I felt I did not have to visit all the flats within Marine Parade, but the Joo Chiat, the Roxy 1, Roxy 2, those two precincts are new to me. So I've actually walked twice already in the Joo Chiat area. Once before nomination, the moment I knew that place would come to me, I've walked that place. And again, after nomination, I've campaigned there twice. So I am familiar, and that place is not new to me because it was part of Marine Parade before, GRC, when Mr. Lim Chee On was the MP candidate. So I am familiar with the area. You might not know it, and my grassroots leaders do not know it. One day after dinner there, about 9 o'clock, I decided to drive along Joo Chiat Road to look at the so-called sleaze factors. Somebody emailed me, that I should do something about that, so I decided to go there. And I went around. I didn't see many Vietnamese girls or other girls there. So I emailed back to this particular person that about 9, maybe it was too early. So I told him I'll go back maybe about 11 p.m. the next time to see for myself what the situation is. For that kind of a problem, I'm going to seek the help of Fatima. She's very experienced in tackling the so-called sleaze problem in Geylang, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think I would seek her help to try and clean up the place if necessary, and make sure that the place is much better for the residents over there. So I too have done my fair share of walking. Last night, I walked 6 kilometers. Up, down, move around, 6 kilometers. Why? How did I know that? Because my SO had a pedometer. He measured the distance I walked. So 6 kilometers last night. Okay, now maybe some questions on this before I move on to the other section.
That's on the issue about people who fall through the cracks. Today the NSP the residents that they've met complain about being in hardship, that help is not reaching them. And you said earlier about wanting your team to look into cases that fall through the cracks. So what's being done here?
Well, I think we have always been paying attention to these individual cases. That's the work of an MP. The government will look at the overall picture, and you have rules and regulations and the bureaucracy to enforce those rules. But it is a job of a good MP to look at individual cases. A small problem to an individual, as seen by the government, is actually a big problem for the person concerned. So MPs got to surface them, and of course sometimes pressure the ministers or lobby the bureaucracies to get things done. That's on each micro case, and that's important. See? Or on a macro case, we got to work out some programs to make sure that those cases which now fall through the cracks will be caught by some safety net. A good example is Medifund, which was set up years ago to provide a safety net for those who could not afford health expenses. And Medifund allows the social worker to look at cases, case by case. So last year alone, there were 400,000 applications for the Medifund, which means the social workers will be looking at a case on an individual basis. And many cases had their fees totally waived, other cases partially waived. We can apply the same principle through ComCare, which PAP has set up, which is a very good idea to look at the individual cases. And I myself, had handled a case through the email. Somebody who had problems with the CPF, with HDB, wife, had medical problems he had, and so on, and so many other issues. We can't get the CPF out. He started up with condominium, and he could not get an HDB flat because he's got to wait for 3 years. And meanwhile, he had to rent a flat, which meant more expenses. So these are the individual cases which as MP, we look at and see whether there's merit in, bending the rule a little. So what is done for one case must be done for other cases in similar plight. See? We go around. Yes, I think you just mentioned her.
Can I just add something?
No, we have done a lot, but in election time, our NPS cases pack up. Everybody will come to you. So we look at them. Some cases you can't do it. You see. When they want to jump queue on HDB and so on, that can be done. But many other cases can be done and should be done. So NSP would have to exploit all this. And there are cases I would admit, maybe we have not done it well enough, we could do much better, we should review. But they are attacking your micro elements over here. On the whole, have you done a good job? See?
Can I just add about the cases that fall through the cracks? It is not that because SM brought it up, it doesn't mean that we have not been looking at these cases. We've been handling them, Kian Peng and myself, the last 5 years. So these cases are out of the ordinary and they need to be looked at with more detail and take more time. So usually when you have such cases, we need to do a bit more as MPs on the ground. We need to probably lobby the ministers for case-by-case consideration, for re-appeals. We need to even pick up the phone and call the agencies and the head of certain divisions, talk to them and tell them exactly what the details are. And I found that actually doing this, which takes a bit more effort and time on the part of the MP, works. And we've solved quite a few cases this way. These are the cases that fall through the cracks. So this is actually from ground experience. Your network of contact and communications with the different government agencies, the people that you know, actually helps a lot when you are an MP. So that's why the good collaborative relationship plays a very vital role in your role as an MP. So that is, something that you have as an incumbent MP, as someone who's had a bit of experience as well.
So as Anchor Minister for the GRC, I'm very glad that Pei Ling is looking after McPherson. I know the place, I've been there, and Fatima also knows the area very well. The Circuit Road area, 3 rooms, 2 rooms, 1 room, and so on. Very poor rental, and many old people there. You need to have a young person who has got the interest and the energy to service that. But one thing you can do in the future is to have a discussion amongst yourselves out of all these individual cases to see whether there's a pattern. So then you put up the pattern in terms of people falling through the cracks, and then put up your idea either in Parliament or in the paper to me, which I can then put to the ministers. Because otherwise you're just dealing case by cases. You may still miss out some. So look for the pattern. in these cases.
That's what
you can
happens when we handle them case by case, and then we come up with
Yeah.
questions. We put them forth in Parliament. That's how some of our questions in Parliament come about.
Yeah.
You know.
do. Okay.
So this many helping hands approach really, first, I would say that by and large ensures that as many cases are indeed help is rendered to them. I think for every case which unfortunately perhaps the problems are quite complicated, it needs a lot more attention. There are many hundreds of cases where help have been extended, and that has made a difference to their lives. So I think we should not, yes, we should focus on some of these that are very complicated cases, but I want to actually reiterate that there are several hundreds, maybe thousands, where we have helped. So those are not lost. And the many residents that we do, they tell us how grateful they are. So there are several of such cases.
There are two areas where I would want the MPs to pay more attention: education and health. Education, make sure that nobody's child is left behind just because the family is poor. That the government will help,
that one, yes.
We will help. And the other part is health. Nobody is denied medical services just because he or she or the family has got no money. That we have given a guarantee as government. But make sure that on the ground, that is implemented, because some people do not know how to approach and so on, and they could fall between the cracks. So that's our job.
Senator, you said that there are some areas where you think your team can improve on. You mentioned
Areas?
some areas. What exactly?
Well, we recognize that there are certainly some areas that no one is perfect, whether it's estate management, whether it's individual cases where we could have dealt better. I think, I speak for myself, I think clearly can I further improve on our, say, estate management, whether it's private or HDB, for sure. I think there are some, I think by and large the response I've gotten are, by and large, I think we've done a good job. Our town council does run a tight ship and maintain our estate well. But are there areas which perhaps it could improve? For sure. I think in my own work, likewise, that you should never be satisfied with what you have done. You should always strive to improve on what you have done. So it could be a simple drain. Right? Today I went to a private estate. Some drains I recognize. The drains I think are old. The cleanliness is not there. I got to talk to PUB. But I told them actually this is on my game plan. I have 2 private estates. One of them is already undergoing the estate upgrading program, and the residents are very happy. But obviously I would like the same to be done there. So I told them I'm going to work on that. The reason I worked on that particular private estate was because it was older. So this is compared to the 2. But I told them if I get re-elected, this is the one I want to go for private estate, for this private estate to get the estate upgrading. And this is the Lorong Hausan, the Hausan side, Jalan Gemba.
The key thing is, although we have done quite a lot for the people, that serves as experience only. I think we should look forward, and continue to serve in a sincere and humble manner. I think the past is already done, not so important, but continue to serve and impress upon the people we are sincere in wanting to serve you. And if we have not met your expectations, let us know. We try and improve. I mean, that's my advice to the new candidates. So that they know that this is a service. This is not, a position for you, where you feel important. No, you are now going to join us in serving the people over many years.